You're clearly, you enjoy what you do. I think that comes over.
Yeah.
And as you said, you know, you've allowed people to, shall we say, construct your new sound, as it were. You know, Mark Almond, brilliant guy.
Yeah,
a little
lovely.
bit terrifying in some respects, I found, as you know, a person, because he's one of these. He's so talented.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just so many ideas flowing out of him. You know, and of course we all remember him as Soft Cell, but I remember Mark and the Mambas and all that sort of stuff. You know,
and he did this Jack Brel thing, but Tainted Love and Something's Got a Hold of My Heart
brilliant
with Gene Pitney.
you know, and that's what I mean. He's a reluctant pop star.
Yeah.
Would you say you're the same? Are you a reluctant pop star?
Well, no, I don't think it's the same because, well, when I started with my first 2 albums in the 60s when I was signed to Decca, I wasn't a pop star, I was a folk singer then, because that's what girls did.
Yeah.
Me and Bowie, but he was still called Jones then, you know, we used to go out and strum 12-string guitars, because if you're not that good at the guitar, 12 strings make it sound much bigger. So I started off folky because my voice wasn't really trained enough, so a folk thing, I suppose you could still be folky and a pop star, is when I got to the 70s, when Bowie and I had the same management, and this was a company called Main Man, and that's when I did my album Weren't Born a Man, which has the song that Bowie wrote for me on it, called Andy Warhol. And he liked my version so much that he did it on his Hunky Dory album. But if you listen to my version, you can hear his voice being my backing singer and strumming his guitar. So I reciprocated and sang as his backing singer on the Ziggy Stardust album. So that's when life was more like a pop star, because our manager said, in order to be famous, you must act and go through life first class. So we had 24/7 limos, we flew everywhere first class. For about 4 years, this company was just fabulous.
Yeah.
And then, like anything that's great, it has got to end, and it kind of collapsed. And then Bowie and everyone was in litigation. But I had a great time being a pop star, skirts up to here, high heels like this, cleavage down to here. I was on the cover of my 3rd album wearing kind of black corset and stockings and suspenders. That was for Weren't Born a Man, which is the book there. And Bowie was on the cover of his album in a dress, unheard of in those days.
Which would be shocking, wouldn't it? Very shocking.
Then, yes, then.
Yeah.
So, yes, that was the pop star years. But then I realised that I'd have a sell-by date if I carried on with these kind of high heels. So by 1980, I had a blues band, which is the London Blues Band, but I also worked a lot in Vienna. So I joined a blues band over there. So I suddenly had 2 careers going on at the same time, and I was kind of commuting backwards and forwards, which was great fun. So going to blues meant that I can still do music till I fall over.
Well, it's ever going, isn't it, blues? People love blues.
And it goes till you're 100, till you can't sing anymore, till you can't stand. Well, actually, you can still do blues sitting down. But, you know, you don't have a sell-by date. As long as you're fit enough to stand and get through it, you can do the blues. Whereas pop singers have a bit of a limited life. You know, Bowie and I, this was when he was still Jones. He was about to be Bowie quite soon after that. We used to sit in a cafe in Denmark Street, Tin Pan Alley, which is almost unrecognisable now. But there was a little cafe called the Gioconda, and lots of musicians and likes of me would sit in there nursing our cups of tea, waiting for somebody from the music publishing offices, which was all up and down Tin Pan Alley, to come and say, "Oh, quick, we need a bass player or a backing singer," to come into the studios in the basements where they all had studios, demo studios, and you had to be able to sing or play. You couldn't. I mean,
and be ready straight off.
Jimmy Page, as of now, Led Zeppelin, but he and John Paul Jones, they did all the sessions in the 60s. My first album had these Jimmy Page on it and playing all the guitar and everything, and everyone was just kind of working. If you couldn't do it, you wouldn't be there. When, you know, Bowie and I both needed a job at one point. We both went and auditioned for Hair, and we both got turned down. Wow. Can you believe it? But so once anybody gets a job and you've been looking for a gig, I was just happy to have a job. So it was a job, but my heart has always been in songwriting and my own production. So at the same time as finishing off Superstar, I was trying to finish off the Weren't Born a Man album.
Did you find this process easy or hard? Was it hard to go through your memory bank and think which bits will I put in?
Wasn't. I started it 8 years before, And it took me 8 years of my old pal who I've known since he was 13, Julian Clary. I go every year to his panto, by the way, just to be cheered up. And when he goes on tour doing his show Born to Mince, he plays my slightly naughty songs in the interval. I've gone off on I've digressed as usual.
Very funny man, though.
Oh, and lovely
funny.
too.
Yeah.
He sent me to his book publisher, and I went. Then I had to get a literary agent, and they all tried to do something with it, but it didn't work. It was a funny time, and then COVID hit, so the book got finished, and then we found a publisher. But it was at a bad time because COVID had people terrified and bookstores were closed.
And you want to promote it, and your stories are fabulous.
Well, I just wanted it out. It had lived with me for 8 years, and at that point, Bowie hadn't died.
Yeah.
He was still alive. So I probably should write volume 2. And in fact, I took 500 pages to the publisher, and he said, I'm cutting out 150 because if you leave them with 500, they're all going to lose the will to live. The good thing about the book is that it's got loads of pictures that I took of Bowie and all the Robert Plant and Jimmy Page and things, and that was a nice thing to have had done, you know. So it's out, and I got to read it for that thing called Audible, the talking book thing for people who can't be bothered to read. When Bowie and I had the same manager, he always said, when you've written a song, put in brackets where you've written it, because it might even help tax-wise. I don't quite know if that worked or not. So I did on one album. I put exactly where I'd written it.
And it's fascinating because it might help you. You might think that's when I wrote it, Yeah,
it's quite nice to know when, where, how and why. When you're younger, you write all these kind of love songs and things. When you get older, you're just happy to get out of bed and...
still be breathing.
Still be breathing, but hot to trot. And I still do loads and loads of gigs, which is great.